Hey, this is Alec. Welcome to White Whale Comics. With Marvel recently relaunching Fantastic Four, I wanted to take a minute to talk about the first Fantastic Four movie that was ever made. But not this one, this one. And more specifically, how and why it was made. It all started back in the early 80s. Marvel, and Stan Lee specifically, was trying to cash in on the success of things like the Superman franchise and wanted to try to sell some of their more popular characters' movie rights. And they did. They sold Spider-Man to a company called Cannon Films, who later went bankrupt, and Marvel resold them to Sony, famously, in the 90s when they went bankrupt. Marvel, not Sony. And they sold the rights to Fantastic Four to this man, Bernd Eichinger, for $250,000. But then, once he had it, Bernd and his production company, New Constantine Films, just sat on the rights. He claimed that it was due to budget concerns for being able to make a movie of that caliber. But, you know, maybe he just liked owning stuff. Something I cannot relate to. Anyway, so he sat on the rights for almost 10 years. And that is an important number because after 10 years, the rights would revert back to Marvel and they could sell them again for another cool $250K. But there was a catch. If within those 10 years, New Constantine Films made a movie, they would then get first rights of refusal to renew those rights. By this point, it was the early 90s, and his 10-year deal was starting to come to a close. So, Bernd approached this man, legendary filmmaker and honorary Academy Award recipient Roger Corman. I'm actually a pretty big fan. He's best known for making low-budget, independent horror and sci-fi films. Films like The House of Usher, Little Shop of Horrors, The Wasp Woman, Piranha, Death Race 2000, Wild Angels. I could go on. And he helped launch the careers of a few minor Hollywood filmmakers and actors, like Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, Ron Howard, James Cameron, Jack Nicholson, Sylvester Stallone, and William Shatner. A bunch of real B-listers. But still. My point is, Roger Corman is a very legitimate and successful filmmaker, which is important to note. So Eichinger approaches Corman, and they agree to produce a movie with a budget of $1 million. And they did. And it's, well...
Look at me!
I'll unpack that in a minute. But they do shoot it, edit it, print it, and even have a premiere set. But then at the last minute, they decide to not release it. All of the prints were collected and reportedly destroyed before anybody saw it. But why? Well, for years there were two main theories about why this was the case. The first was that Eichinger never intended to release the movie and only made it in order to fulfill the terms of his contract so he could renew the rights. Now, this may seem a little far-fetched to invest $1 million in something you were just going to literally throw in the trash can. I mean, that doesn't make sense, right? And no one made another Fantastic Four movie until 2005, which was produced by this guy. Oh. Well, Rise of the Silver Surfer couldn't have been... Yep. Bernd. And even though he passed away in 2011, the 2015 reboot was still produced by his production company, Constantine Films. I guess they dropped the new because it wasn't new anymore. Remember that initial investment of $250,000? Well, the Fantastic Four franchise has made $790 million worldwide. So it could be theoretically argued that he saw the future potential in this franchise way back in 92, 93 and decided that investing $1 million for just being able to retain the rights was worth it. Maybe. The second theory is that Marvel themselves, and specifically this man, Avi Arad, who at the time was a Marvel executive and became the eventual founder of Marvel Studios, was worried that the low-budget film could cheapen the brand and actually bought all the prints to have them destroyed. Now this may seem a little, I don't know, excessive, but for years Marvel denied the film ever even existed, which seems a little weird and suspect. And I remember watching a bootleg copy of it a friend of mine got in, I don't know, 95 maybe? So right after it came out. So it was available, sort of. So the fact that they tried to just claim that it didn't exist when it clearly did, weird. So, which one is it? Which one's a true story? Well, it took almost 20 years, but in 2012, Arad finally admitted that he did in fact purchase all of the films and burned them. Funny thing is about all of this, the film isn't actually that bad. I mean, it's not good, but it's not that bad. Sure, it's low budget, and it's kind of cheesy, and the special effects are not great, and Doctor Doom's performance is way over the top.
I had such a unbearable hatred for you, Reed. For turning me into this. Look at it!
But I get the sense it had a younger audience in mind, so I can kind of forgive some of that. It reminds me of like a Power Rangers movie or a Ninja Turtles film. And honestly, I think it was cast pretty well. I mean, if you had to pick, which Sue Storm would you cast? Or Reed? That dude was Reed. And maybe it's just because I enjoy practical effects in film, but The Thing, I'm kind of okay with it.
It's clobbering time.
Now don't get me wrong, this film is not good, but I've watched a lot of really bad movies in my day, and this one is pretty passable. The script makes sense, and besides one weird subplot, it's a decent origin story.
Look at you. The Fantastic Four.
So, I'm not really sure why Marvel went to such extremes in order to have this never shown and effectively erased from history. You can find it now on YouTube for free, and it's worth a watch, if nothing else, just for the historical significance of where Marvel movies have come since then. Marvel still doesn't retain the rights to the Fantastic Four film franchise, and as long as New Constantine, or I don't know, Old Constantine? I don't know what it would be now. Whatever. That production company, as long as they keep making films, they can keep renewing the rights in perpetuity, as far as I know. Now, they may be able to strike some sort of deal like Sony did with Marvel, where they can use the Fantastic Four characters in Marvel movies, but until they establish a successful franchise themselves, it'd be kind of weird if like different actors just kept showing up in Marvel movies playing the Richardses and the Storms and the Grimm. So that's it. I could have easily taken this opportunity to make fun of the movie and really tear it apart, but I feel that the story behind it is more interesting than me making jokes about it. Interested to see if any of you have watched it, and what your thoughts are. If you think I am being too generous or maybe even too harsh. Let me know in the comments and we can strike up a conversation. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Never turn your back to the ocean.